Could be the shortest reviews in the history of BookTube. Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to a video in which I'm going to review two books. I'm going to review Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks, which was nominated for the Women's Prize and is still, I believe, is on the short list. And I'm going to review Boulder by Eva Baltasar, translated from the Catalan, I believe, by Sanches. So I'm going to review those two books, let you know what I think about them. Mostly unscripted. I do have little note cards here for myself, but mostly unscripted, my thoughts about those two books. I'm going to start with Fire Rush because Fire Rush is the longer of the books. I think it comes in around 336 pages. Jacqueline Crooks is, I believe this is the first book that she's written, and I thought it was excellent. It is one of those books which I'm still kind of thinking my way through, but the longer I think about it, having read it, the more that I like it. Fire Rush follows the story of a young woman named Yamaya, and Yamaya is living in a housing project in a poor suburban area or city area of London that is dominated by people of Jamaican descent and by Jamaican and other immigrants, and she herself is of Jamaican descent. Her mother is dead, her father is cold, distant, abusive at times, and Yamaya and her friends like to spend their time when they're not working getting dressed up and going to literally underground clubs that play a version of dub reggae music, and they go and they dance and they meet people and they meet men and they have fun. And this music and the rhythm of this music and the importance of this music and the lyrics of this music and the cultural significance of this music, with its blend of kind of the urban feel of London in the late 70s, early 80s, with the traditional content, rhythms, songs of protest from Jamaica's past, really are the, backbeat, the undercurrent, if you will, of the novel. That kind of, I think, flavored the entire thing, as well as the fact that a lot of the dialogue is written in a Jamaican, or at least a Jamaican diaspora patois, which it does take a little bit of getting used to figure out what all the words mean, and you can look them up. You can look them up if you want to. But Yamaya, her story involves all kinds of things. There's a ton of stuff going on. Not a whole lot of characters, but enough to keep a lot of threads going through. But essentially we follow Yamaya through a tragedy resulting from police brutality, her involvement in protests, how those protests make her perhaps a target of the British government under the Thatcher government in Great Britain, how in her attempt to flee from that she becomes involved in an abusive relationship, how she escapes from that, how she gets back to Jamaica in pursuit of her roots and in some ways of her mother's ghost, and how all that works out itself culturally in her kind of awakening and realization of things about herself and her family, her father, and the history of Jamaica and her family's history and racism, all works out along with this kind of element, this kind of thrillerish element, which really kind of occupies like the last half of the novel. I thought it is really well done. It is not, it kind of is one of those books that straddles the line between, a little bit of genre fiction and, a true work of literary fiction, which, is based on ideas, but it also has, I think, a plot that moves along. As I think other people have pointed out, it is a little bit slow to start with. There's not a whole lot going on in terms of plot. A lot of character development, a lot of scene setting, a lot of, understanding the world in which Yamaya lives and her friends and things like that. But when the plot picks up, it definitely picks up. And so I just thought it was really, really great. Really well written, really interesting. I thought really well crafted with all those elements of the music, Jamaican culture, Jamaican history, the history of Jamaican people in dealing with colonialism inside Jamaica and outside, relationships between men and women, relationships between women and women, are really all kind of explored. I just thought it was an incredibly, involved kind of tapestry of events and places and people and things to think about, and just a really, really good book. So the second book I wanted to review is Boulder by Eva Baltasar. This is a really short book. I think it has less than 130 pages. Let me look real quick. Yes, actually it has 105 pages. And this is a book that I read in one day. That almost never happens. Even with really short books like this, I usually don't read a book in a whole day. But I read this one in a whole day. And that, I think, made it an even more special experience. So if you haven't know anything about Boulder, it is, I believe, on the short list for the Booker International Prize still. It's the only book from that list that I have read, and I really, really liked it. So our main character is a woman who is essentially a loner. We're not exactly sure why, but she prefers to be alone, unattached, unconnected, to hold herself at a distance from other people. She's intensely private. So much so that she takes a job working as a cook, essentially, on freight ships that travel up and down the coast of Chile. That's what she does, and she's left alone, and she makes food, and she has her own space, and she doesn't have to worry about anything else. From time to time, the ship goes into port, and she gets off the ship sometimes and goes to clubs and tries to pick up women. This is where she meets Sanches, who she falls head over heels in love with, and they begin a really intense affair. So that this character, who we know to be kind of a loner, this person who is compared to a boulder out in the ocean all by themselves by Sanches, this person becomes incredibly attached to Sanches and follows her unquestioningly. Gives her a job and follows her to Reykjavik, Iceland, where they move into an apartment. And Sanches, who is an engineer, I believe, and has a very profitable career. They live a really comfortable life in which they're essentially just the two of them, and our main character can focus all her love, attention, obsession, if you will, on Sanches. And this all changes when Sanches announces that she wants to have a baby. So Sanches wants to have a baby, and even though Boulder is not interested in this at all, she goes along with it and gets swept up in it because she can't stand the thought of losing Sanches. So she goes along with this plan, and the baby comes, and it changes everything. It changes everything in ways in which I think if you are a parent who is not the one who gave birth, will be somewhat unsurprising. There are surprising twists in this. And our character finds out that she can in fact love more than one person at a time, that she can love this child in her own way. Now, things don't necessarily all work out the way Boulder wants them to, but I just found it to be an incredibly effective look at a person like that. And maybe I identified a little bit with Boulder and her approach to these relationships, and not necessarily always in a healthy way. I don't do all the things you're going to find out Boulder did. But I kind of identified with that idea. I have kids, but obviously I didn't give birth to those kids. So my emotional feelings before the kids were born and after surprised me, and I think in that way I identified with Boulder. Also with her kind of obsessive loneliness, her ability to become obsessed with the people that she does love to a certain extent, hopefully not in an unhealthy way on my part. I identified with those things, and I found the book to be really moving and engaging and involving and really well written. The writing, by the way, is the sentences are oftentimes really short, but they're almost like the short lines in poetry. They can be repetitive, but they always kind of bring up a certain rhythm and ideas in the book. I just thought it was great all around. So there you go. There are my two reviews, Fire Rush and Boulder. By the way, I didn't say this about Fire Rush, but I thought the writing in Fire Rush was really excellent as well. There are my reviews of Fire Rush and Boulder. If you've read these two books, if you want to read these two books, or interested in these two books, I look forward to your comments in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching.